So thank you so much for joining me on BrandSpot today. I'm Antonia K. Moore, and you're all the way coming from Mauritius, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes, amazing, beautiful, and it's like getting really warm there now. I'm actually in Ireland myself, so we're both in Europe. So that's good.
Uh,
So if you want to maybe just we'll dive in, and you can just like tell the listener, tell the audience rather, a bit about yourself and a bit about what you do, and yeah, we'll start there.
sure. Thanks. Thank you, listeners. This is Sandeep Mohapatra. I head digital transformation and technology for ABSA Bank Mauritius. Uh, as a group, our motto is that we want to be an entrepreneurially driven firm which has got digitally led scalable businesses which can scale globally. So essentially, the core of my focus is to push the boundaries of digital uh, to be able to serve the customer, which is at the core of our focus. So this is essentially what I do. We've made very serious progress in terms of our digital transformation agenda, uh, and we've put quite a few innovative solutions in front of our customers, which gets things done, as we say in ABSA.
Wow, okay, fantastic. So I suppose like can you tell us about the kind of like the different sort of digital systems you maybe, have in place that let's say gets things done or helps to get things done?
Absolutely. So at ABSA, when I joined about 3 years back, uh, we started to craft a very bold and ambitious digital strategy. And one of the core pillars of that strategy was how do we build a phygital strategy which essentially combines the best of our human abilities, and we can orchestrate digital in a way where human uh, kind of orchestrates the digital core, and we get the best of both the worlds. So for example, and this became a very accelerated journey when we hit the pandemic. When we hit the pandemic, we saw that the world moved from a social or a sharing economy as the world knew it to a more, should I say, to a more isolated economy. And this had serious repercussions on the way the customer dealt with a physical network. Uh, Most of them were unwilling to come to a physical or a branch network, and we had to take into account that some of them may never come back. So we started, in a way, accelerating some of our key initiatives, and one of these initiatives was Project Abby. Project Abby is our venture into the AI digital personal banker world, wherein we have a digital personal banker in a humanoid form and in a kiosk across all ABSA branches. Uh, and this became our first point of self-service interaction at a physical network, i.e., making it phygital. And then we started interlacing Abby into almost everything that we do. So Abby, in its own form, is based out of artificial intelligence. It's got voice recognition, it's got face recognition, it has got autonomous navigation, swift self-service, natural language processing abilities, and so on and so forth. So we started taking that journey forward. We soon enough launched Abby on WhatsApp, providing the first WhatsApp banking in the island for not just banking queries, but also for transactions. So people could chat the way they chat with their friends, but they could still transact with the bank. Then we moved on to creating a whole new digital onboarding platform, again stitched by artificial intelligence. And the way we did it was not just built a very intuitive and simple digital journey, but we started interlacing AI with it, meaning we've got digital KYC, which is done without human intervention today, wherein the face ID of the customer uploading his ID proof is matched with the live face, and the system says, oh, well, that's a match. And that's done under 30 seconds with the liveness detection. Uh, we also have provided the clients help throughout the way in terms of a chat and co-browsing facility, meaning they can Instead of visiting a branch or asking a query to an RM, they can straight away pick uh, and they can resume their journey from where they left. If they need assistance, depending on the page that you're invoking chat from, it automatically suggests a few questions that you may have on that page. And it can also connect to a live agent who can help you co-browse your journey should you need assistance. So with that, we started building this whole digital onboarding platform across our customer segments. And among other things, we also built a very robust, app that could cater for almost every client segment. So it was in a way a super app, and depending on who the customer is, whether it's an international customer, whether it's a retail customer, whether it's a wealth customer, whether it's a business banking customer, the single app in a way changes itself depending on how the customer logs in to be able to provide a whole host of features for your everyday banking. So there were some significant upgrades there. As COVID also hit us, we realized we had to make banking more hygienic and keep the social distancing and low touch solutions in play. So we were the first bank again to introduce QR based ATM withdrawals without the need of even touching the ATM. We introduced contactless cards, which allowed our customers to transact at any point in time without having to touch anything. And there were a whole host of other things that we did, during this whole journey. And this was all done in a matter of a year and a half. Speaking of the speed at which we were able to progress on this much bold, ambitious journey.
Wow, okay. That's interesting, actually, using a QR code for the ATM. So I suppose, like, how does that work? I imagine that the customer would have, I suppose, their details stored in the QR and then they just hit it off the ATM. Is that also available, if they're traveling internationally?
Yeah, that's correct. So essentially the way it works is all the customer needs is a smartphone and ABSA app installed on it. So when the QR code that is displayed on the ATM screen is a dynamic QR. So the moment the customer opens up his app, authenticates himself, he sees an icon called ATM withdrawal. So he hits the tab, the camera opens up, and it starts scanning the dynamic QR. It binds the dynamic QR to the session of the customer, and it allows from the smartphone to input your withdrawal amount, and you can see cash come off the ATM just like that. And it's, by the way, much faster as opposed to when you dip your card and you do it, because our app is also a biometric logged in app. So you can use your Face ID or your thumbprint to check into the app without having to enter your username, password, OTPs, and the like. So a transaction can practically be concluded at an ATM in under probably 10 seconds.
Fantastic. Wow. So, like, what are like maybe the top, say, three unique innovations that you've created in the banking system, let's say, with all that there that you mentioned? What would you say are the top three things that are really different from say your competitors or from like what you had previously?
Yeah, so I think one of them, fundamentally the most exciting thing, or as we call a science fiction thing that we could do, was to say, what if at the branch we just do not make the self-service a very boring interface, like how does it mimic a human behavior? So we went to the core of the problem to say, why do people come to branches if they could do that self-service on themselves on the app? And some of the insights that we got from our customers is that the warmth that they get from a human interaction, and so on and so forth. So we said, if we put a digital corner and we just put a layout like an internet banking or an app, that would not probably address the customer's need. So we said, okay, let's take it a bit further. What if it was a whole lot of fun to interact with someone who could talk, behave like a human, but would also have the warmth and would still be a self-service? So we went on and we said, what if we put a humanoid in a branch, and that humanoid can walk and talk? It can show you the desk that you need to go to, should he not be able to, or he or she not be able to self-service that transaction. And we said, let's start by thinking, how do we mimic that human behavior? So we started right at the start to say, when a customer comes to a branch, if I know you, I would say, hey, Antonia, how are you doing today? So if we start that interaction by just doing Face ID match, and we start calling out our customers to say, hi, Sandeep, how can I help you today? It automatically starts to, have a very different feel to it. Then we went on to say, okay, in a real world, people talk. People don't necessarily punch numbers behind a computer or a tablet. So what if we gave it natural language processing abilities, where people can talk in a very unstructured language to say, oh, I need my bank statement, I want to transfer money to Antonio, and so on and so forth. Would that be possible? So we said, yeah, let's take a stab at that. So we introduced voice recognition into this thing. Then we also said, okay, what if we want, for whatever need the client wants to visit our RM, wants to have a more deeper discussion for a high value or a specific transaction that can't be done self-servicing, can the bot really navigate the client to say, okay, be at this desk, somebody would attend to you shortly. So all of those things, I think, things that are built out of science fiction, we wanted to put in practice in banking. And I think by far that's been the tallest tree of what we've done. And what that helped us when we did that really modern artificial intelligence interlaced stack was it allowed us to have other offerings in a very differentiated manner, as opposed to our competition, or as opposed to the industry. We could practically start interlacing that technology into all the other pieces to make the customer journey so much more delightful.
Sounds amazing. Wow. And tell us, are you going to be amalgamating cryptocurrency into your systems as well at some point in time?
Well, as it stands now, Mauritius itself is trying to pilot the whole central bank digital currency, and it's one of the pioneer countries. We've had deeper discussions with the regulator on the framework of how it would work. So we are very keen on seeing what CBDCs can do to Mauritius, but also on the other hand, we are also trying to see the far-reaching effects that distributed ledger technologies can bring to the banking world, thereby disintermediating a lot of things. So while we've kept our eyes wide open, but we haven't really jumped with both our feet yet. There's a lot happening with regulations around cryptos in general. So we are not very comfortable still in that space, in a way to say that we would want to start adopting cryptos as a method of payment. But with CBDCs, I think using the same underlying technology, we could see a new currency, emergence of a new currency that could probably lead us to a world of accepting CBDCs as a way of money. So we're keeping our eyes wide open, and a lot is changing there, but we will jump in at the right time.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's very good, just to kind of keep an eye in it. And then, as you say, jump in at the right time. It's a good sort of strategy, I guess, just to wait and have patience. And then regarding, let's say, blockchain, I mean, obviously, like, blockchain is like a platform, that, banks would be sort of decentralized as opposed to centralized. Do you think that, like, maybe ABSA might ever, like, become decentralized, and become a part of the blockchain? Is that any sort of ambition, or what's your thoughts on that?
So I think, like I said, the distributed ledger technology, which essentially powers the blockchain, comes with a lot of plus and minus as well. So it also increases your cost to process a transaction, given that there is replication. So it's very energy consuming for now across. However, it also has its big pros of taking intermediaries out, of taking, of making things more digital with a smart contract of sorts and things like that. Plus, there is the whole regulatory environment, which may or may not be conducive. So for example, let me take the example of CBDC, which is backed by the fiat currency. So from a currency perspective, it's a stable coin, it's a stable currency. It's backed by the mandate of the central bank. So there's no capital erosion risk of such when it comes to that money. Now, at a central bank level, they are also talking about and as all other central banks are saying, to say, can we make international transfers much like we do domestic transfers, where settlements take place in a matter of seconds as opposed to a matter of days? And today, if you look at the process, that's opaque, that's time consuming, that's more cost to the customer. And if we move there, it could potentially shorten a lot of things. But if that comes to play, and we can use some of that as an underlying technology, as we become clearer, and we can start to use it to even do financial transactions at a bank level, to do transactions in terms of blockchains for non-financial transactions, in terms of smart contracts, etc., we would be very keen to do it. But like I said, there are too many variables now in the play, and they seem to be emerging and not in a state where they are by and large settled as to how they would play out. So again, keeping a watch, but not early, not very eager to dive in at this point in time.
Very good. Wow, amazing. It sounds very interesting, exciting, and innovative, as you're saying. So, is there anything else before we wrap up that you'd like to add to kind of notify any kind of customers, potential customers?
Yeah, I think today, and this is one of the discussions we are having internally, to say, why should technology or technology investments in a way be only offered to customers of your bank? So if I had to extend that argument forward, I would say, assume in a world where you say, all right, you provide technically multi-asset investments or digital remittances, or let's say a shopping experience, or any of that. All of that is essentially money traveling from one pocket to somebody else's pocket. Right? This is basically, you are affecting a payment one way or another. Now, if you say we start only looking at ABSA customers, in a way, you have restricted the scalability of the technology to a certain audience. But what if you start breaking that barrier, and you start saying, you could do open banking, and anybody could be banking in any part of the country, at least, if not the world, to say, customer, no customer, the technology platform is here for you to come and effect that transaction. And if we can get into that world, I think one of the things that it will do is help you grow inorganically, and also make your technology investments so much more viable. And I think if all of us start to look at that and start to say, how do we co-create things and build common platforms for that technology to reap its full potential, that is a direction that we would want to potentially head at. But it's easier said than done. There is also the regulatory framework that comes to play. And in all of that orchestration, there is a big role that technology as well as the industry players need to join in. And when I say regulatory, for example, there are various countries who leapfrogged into digital transformation when the regulator opened up the doors of CKYC. They opened up the doors for, let's say, credit bureaus. They opened up the door for open banking, and things like that. Mauritius is well placed in a very progressive manner, that they have started opening up payments now interbank domestically. And I think if we can take the power of technology and combine some of these means that the regulator offers, we could truly take it beyond the confines of just ABSA.
Wow, fantastic. Listen, thank you so much, Sandeep, for joining me on the podcast today. It's been very insightful and quite interesting. So tell the audience where they can reach you if they want to get in contact.
Yeah, so I'm available on LinkedIn as Sandeep Mohapatra. You can search Sandeep Mohapatra ABSA Mauritius. You would surely find me there. I'm also on Twitter, not although a regularly tweeting guy, but I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Facebook as well. So feel free to reach me out, ask any questions. Would be very happy when I find the time to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully we might have you back in future.
Thank you so much.
Take care for now then. Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.